I get to interview them. This is amazing. So, this person is Sean Williams, the founder and host of the Safe Room podcast, who's creating a safe space for entrepreneurs and business owners to share their entrepreneurial stories. Sean has produced over 115 episodes in almost 4 years of the Safe Room podcast, and his expertise in audio engineering has led him to facilitate his own podcast workshops for community residents in North York region, and that's right here in the GTA, Greater Toronto region, where we are broadcasting live from. And I want to shout out right now to the station that you are listening to. This is Love Bay Music Talk Online Radio. And we are here speaking with Sean Williams. Sean is in the building with us right now. Sean, how are you feeling?
Fantastic after that intro. That was amazing. Super glad to be here. So excited for the conversation that's going to be. Like you said, it's a full circle moment. The conversation we had the first time was 3 years ago. So I'm very excited for what's gonna happen now 3 years later.
Exactly. And honestly, Sean, I told Sean this, but I want to let all the listeners and viewers know that Sean actually inspired me to finally find my voice. And it's so interesting because that's the name of Sean's course. We're going to let you know more about that. But I finally found my voice, got out of my secret podcast in my car that I let y'all know about a couple episodes ago, and, made my way here on Love Bay Radio. So this is truly a full circle moment. I didn't know if I would ever actually get here. And Sean, I'd love to just start out with, how did you get here? How did you find your voice to get to the accolades of being able to accumulate 115 episodes in just under 3 years? That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you again. So this story always changes, but I think over the time, I think I figured out what exactly got me started. So I have to go back to my high school days, and I attended Downview Secondary School. It's right up in Keelan Wilson for where I live, and I remember being in I think it was like 10th grade or something like that. I was starting to be more proactive when it came to extracurricular clubs, just trying to figure out what was the thing I was good at. What were something that were my interests? How can I find something that allows me, be authentic? And I think from that time period from grade 10 to grade 12, I did so much clubs. Like, I swear I lost count at one point where I just didn't know how many clubs I were at one point. It was like 10 clubs in 1 year. It's like, that's not even a joke or hyperbole. That was the honest truth. So
Which one
I,
was your favorite, though?
Oh man, now you're just making this difficult. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, probably the athletics club that we had, because it was like me and my best friend. We were like the two heaviest guys when it came to like doing sports at the time, and we were the ones running all the intramural events, doing all the tournaments. So we were really spearheading that at the time being.
Hmm. I love it. I love it. And so now you've joined all these clubs, but then finally,
Yeah, it's just honestly, it wasn't really a breakthrough there. It's like, okay, I joined the clubs, I graduated high school. Okay, cool, move on. It was when I
oh,
got to university where things just kind of really picked up. So I was studying business as my major at York University. And this business club that I joined in my first year, they had this podcast called Negative Balance, and it would be business related topics. So I thought, I mean, why not? Like, I like to talk. Let me just see if I can come on and just give my little 2 cents. They made me the host immediately. I did not expect that, but it
ooh,
was it was like an open like invitation. So I said, okay, let me take it with full arms. I was actually pretty good at it. And I thought, okay, this is fun. And then fast forward came the pandemic, and I
hmm,
remember it was like probably the same week where, everything completely shut down, like in mid-March and everything like that. I started to think about, podcasting a little bit more based on my past experience. I thought, you know what, maybe I should give this a try. Probably it'll be something I could do as a hobby. So I think from there, it was really, we were gone, all just the episodes recording. So I would probably say what allowed me to find my voice, it was probably during my university days, which is hilarious because if you ask me right now, would I ever go back and do all my 4 years? I would tell you, heck no. Absolutely not. I did absolutely nothing. I was stuck to my books from the first class to the very last one. I feel like I had more fun during my high school days, but I feel like the high school days were important because it allowed me to try new things. Whereas the university moment, doing that business related podcast, is where I was able to really amplify and just be free and just let
Mhm.
my voice be heard to just new people and new audiences.
That's amazing. I love it. I love how, you really explored different options to be able to find this one path. And that's something that, I know a lot of people out there, they wonder, like I get asked the question, like, how did you get to be a host? Like, and how do you do it like that? And honestly, I'm like you. I tried out a bunch of different things. I'm still trying things that I like, things that I enjoy, and then really just trying to work on one or two crafts at some point is the goal. But until I get there, I think it's important to really let yourself be free, as you mentioned, and that is how you find your voice. So remember that, people. That's gem number one. We have so many more to go. I wish I had a counter, like where I could just like keep tapping and
Yeah, I just put it at the bottom of the screen.
gem. Yes, TYB, our show producer, please. Like, let's see if we can find a gem counter for all these gems that get dropped. But for you, Sean, one thing that I didn't do, and I want to like take a little break before we get into the breakdowns, because you let us know about some breakthroughs that you had there in finding your voice and being able to become this amazing podcaster. But I know sometimes, we like to know a little bit of things about people that have nothing to do with like their work, because it might even help us to understand if we can relate to this person's journey. So I have 8 rapid fire questions for you. All I want is like either that answer or that answer. You could give a little bit of one, two of your rationale, but these ones are fast. These are
All right,
first thing
let's
that
do
comes
it.
to mind. You got this. Okay. So podcasting fuel. Do you get coffee to kickstart the day or tea to keep it mellow?
Tea, easy.
Okay.
I'm not a coffee person. If anyone asks me for coffee, I'm like, no, sir. The only time I will take coffee is if I'm really having to prepare for a long day. That's it. But tea,
Same, same. I
I'm
knew.
I'm only taking tea, preferably probably peppermint or chai.
Ooh, love. I like those options too. Chai is my favorite.
Hmm.
Yes. Fun fact, chai actually means tea, everybody.
It's like so I'm having tea, double teas.
TT. TT. All right, next one. Dream setting for the podcast, for the Safe Room podcast. A mountain for like a serene backdrop or a beach for a laid back atmosphere?
I'm going with the beach. I don't know what I would be on the mountains and like what are we talking particular? Are we talking like the mountains, but it's still
Like a
like a nice.
chalet. Yeah, like you're in a chalet. You're not out in the mountains.
I'm
Yeah.
about to say, I'm like, I don't know if I can get internet connection from there, but
Oh, good point. Good point.
so I would probably go for the beach because again it's very laid back, relaxing, just fun
Mhm.
vibes, and that's the whole point of my podcast. I want it to be a safe space, and what's better for a safe space than the beach?
I agree. The mountains seem scary. That doesn't seem safe. Very okay, branding. I see you. I see you. All right, Sean. All right. So for Sean's productivity peak, early bird catching the worm or night owl burning the midnight oil?
Oh, that's tough because I can get up in the early in the morning. Like I used to do that during my high school days. I used to get up like 6 a.m. You call me
Mhm.
a madman. Like, why are you getting up at 6 in the morning to
That's the
go to
best
school?
time.
That's the best time. But recently I feel like with everything I do, it's night. It's like everything's late. So if I had to choose though, I think I still go early bird. It's just ingrained into me to just
Yeah.
get up early and get everything done. Cause also if you wake up late, half the day's already finished and you already tell yourself, okay, I just want to go back to sleep.
Right? It's like already the next day. It's tomorrow. Like when you
Right.
get up like past, for me, getting up past 9 a.m., I might as well like then, oh man, we're already on the next day. That's how I
Yeah.
feel. Like things are gonna be delayed.
Uh-huh.
So I hear you on that. Okay. Preferred podcast content, fictional storytelling or nonfiction insights?
I'll go non-fictional. I mean, I don't mind fictional. It's just like I feel like I have to just think super hard on like, okay, what can I possibly say? It's just not to say that I'm not a creative person. I could probably come up with something off the top of my dome, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I think non-fictional, and you mentioned insight, you're learning something. I feel like when you're having that educational piece, it's better than just like, something a little bit more goofy. Sometimes you need a little goofy, but I feel like you can have some of the fictional elements in a non-fictional conversation.
Agree. That's true. You can bring in elements about like, did you see that episode of like X-Men when Wolverine, saved Rogue? That's just
Right.
like in real life when, yeah,
I
it's
see
yeah,
you're a
I
Marvel
like it.
fan. That's good to hear.
Yes, big Marvel fan because that's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, yeah, like, those are my guys. Those are
Mhm.
my guys and gals. Guys and
Mhm.
all right, your style preference, because you are a stylish person. So vintage charm or modern sleekness?
Uh, I'd probably say modern. I know people are gonna probably come after me. It's like, of course, modern, new school over here. All right, that's fine. I'm a modern guy. I mean, listen, I don't mind vintage. It's like, but if you look at my closet, like I am someone that's like super modern to the bone. Like if you ever see me at a function, you don't
Mhm.
want to see me at a function because I'm telling you right now, I will outdress you. Like I come
Oh, see, this is why I
clean.
told y'all, folks, he's a stylish guy.
Listen, like, look at
He
the
does.
pre the
He does
sweater
do.
too. Like this is fitness gear.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
rocking
oh,
fitness gear, but
need
I
a
bet you
sweater.
wouldn't know that. And that's how clean it is. And like, I got the little lift life right
Mhm.
here. It's
Look at
guys,
look at the sleeve, though. Look at
look
the
at the
sleeve.
sleeve. I go modern. I go modern.
Yes, blessings. Oh, yes, and I do wanna shout out the people that are listening right now. We have frequency event promotions. I wanna
Shout out
call
to
you out.
Chris. Shout out to
Yeah.
Chris.
Okay, friends are in the house. Greetings and
Yes.
salutations, friends. We love to see it, the support, big blessings. And we are streaming to over 135 countries right now. So, hello to everyone that is listening right now.
Hello.
We really appreciate you out there. All right, so we're going to get back into our rapid fire questions. We're finding out a little bit more about Sean Williams behind the scenes, like the guy that makes the guy, right? So, podcasting mood, action-packed episodes, or lightheartedness of romantic comedies. So this is like, if you're watching a movie, you're watching Netflix, are you going for action or romance and comedy?
I'm going for the action.
I thought
I'm
so.
definitely the action. Like, especially if we're talking in the podcast realm, like I want to be where like there's something that you can always bite your teeth into, you know? And like even with action, I feel like there's such a like, there's a flow. You know, you have the first act where it's probably just you're setting up the plot, but you're establishing the characters, and like the middle is where like things start to get really intense, everything starts to fold out, and by the end, you know, you reach the end. It's just okay, we're here. I mean, if I were to do romance or comedy, it's just what would that look like? I'm not sure.
What I look like? Actually, we're gonna get into that because you gave us in the course that I'm in with Sean, he gave us this cool exercise. We're gonna talk about it, and we had to make our own movie pitch. And I'm gonna tell them the one that I came up with. So, what do you mean? What do you look
I
like? You're gonna
mean,
tell me your movie pitch next. Get ready. It's a romantic comedy, and it's starring Idris Alba.
oh, that'll be funny as hell just to see.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. I have two more questions for you. Okay.
Okay,
So if you were to have a pet, or maybe you already do, team dogs for loyalty or team cats for independent charm?
is there a no comment option?
That's
Just
probably my one because I don't like.
I'm not a pet person.
Yeah, me neither.
It's just I don't know what it is. The funny thing about that when you mentioned it, so the studio that I go to record all the in-person interviews, they do have two cats. Now, the first time I went there, I wasn't really afraid. I was just kind of like, I'm not feeling it. But I
Yeah.
think it's funny because now that I go back, I'm very calm and collected. I feel like with a pet, if I get to know that pet long enough, I'll
Mhm.
be cool. But if I'm telling
Yeah.
you, if I don't know the pet that well, I'm just not gonna vibe with it. So,
Yeah. So you're not gonna like go choose a pet for yourself, but if
no,
somebody,
not really.
yeah,
Not
I hear
really.
you on that. I hear you.
I'm sorry to all the pet lovers out there. Sorry.
Yeah, there's gonna be some ads right now, Sean. There's definitely gonna be some ads for that. Instagram and YouTube, everybody loves cats. That I don't know why. I'm not for them either, but hey, moving on. Last one for you. Last one. I think I know what you might answer, but I'm very curious, and I'm sure the fans are too. Hosting attire, sneakers for comfort, or dress shoes for a polished vibe.
Yeah, sneakers.
Oh, he's
Sneakers.
going with the sneak.
Uh, listen, again, I know I mentioned that
Oh,
I'm a
that's what
very classy person. I can
you
dress
did.
well, but at the same time, like I'm trying to be chill. Again, the safe room. I feel safe when I'm just me. I'm relaxed. I'm telling you right now, like I'm in my room and I've never felt more comfortable in what I
Mhm.
do. So if I'm putting on dress shoes, the only time you'll see me wear dress shoes and doing interviews if I'm at like a exclusive event,
Mm.
which is fine. But 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna be like chilling. So like I'm gonna be wearing sneaks, probably a whole tracksuit, depending.
Yeah, I hear you. And it will be matching, like coordinated. This is
Yeah, I
like
got a Nike Tech. It's like brown in my closet right now, so
let's
I can
go.
literally
Okay,
turn that. Yeah.
okay, Sean. Next up is an invitation into Sean's closet for the next podcast. We're marking it down. Don't worry. All right. So that's all that we have for you in our rapid fire get to know you 1 minute with Sean Williams. Well, 10 minutes with Sean Williams.
It's cool. It's cool.
We love it. We love it. Okay. So, Sean, we were speaking about your journey and you let us know really how, what sparked your interest to even get into this game. And so now we would love to hear. We always like to speak about the breakdowns that led to these breakthroughs. So, were there any for you breakdowns that you have noted that really changed your perspective and brought you closer to your dreams?
Yeah, there's a lot. So when I first got started with my podcast, which is around May 2020, if you actually go and check like the first episode that's on Spotify, it will tell you August. But the truth be is like that was just when the first episode was uploaded to
That's when you
Spotify.
finally got it up there.
I got it onto platforms, but it started in May. It was originally on my YouTube channel. And one of the few things I had to like really break down was the time management, just the commitment when it comes to podcasting. So, a little fun fact about 90% of podcasts that start don't usually make it past 20 episodes. And,
Mm,
everyone wonders why is that the case is because just the phenomenon's gone. That has a factor and there's an indication of that, but it also tests you to see how much of the commitment that you want to put into your podcast within your platform. A lot of people assume it's just turn on a mic, speak, and then you're on your way, but there's so much that goes into it. Like you mentioned before, I'm teaching a course that's
mhm,
telling people the process, the step by step. It's not just the recording, there's the editing and post production, there's the marketing side of things, also the time management. How are you going to find time to schedule your recordings, recruit your guests, come up with outlines? How are you going to work those out into your schedule, especially if you're maybe working a full-time or part-time job? If you're an entrepreneur, there's so much that goes into it. So for me, I had to realize real quick that I actually need to, sit down, write down what I want to do. So I legitimately created a list of guests that I want to start off with off the jump. And I was still working as a community research coordinator for a small grassroots groups in the Jada Finch community. So as I'm trying to get my work done, when I was off, I was putting in work within the podcast, trying to figure out exactly, okay, who I want to get into, who do I want to reach out, what are my topics going to be. So that was something that I had to learn very, very quickly. And for the time being, it was okay. I felt like I was able to adjust, but there was definitely some bumps. So there were actually a couple episodes that I had to literally just come up with a topic the day of, or just go into there just saying, "Hey guys, I'm back. What do you want to talk about? Because I got nothing. I got nothing. I don't know what I'm gonna say, but we're here."
mhm.
So it's definitely a
Were
challenge.
those live? Those um
It was not
early
live,
ones?
but I'm very transparent when I'm on my podcast. So anyone
Okay.
who's at listened to my episode, I will tell you straight up while recording, like, guys, I'm tired. It's late at night. I don't want to do this, but I'm here. Or I'll say, hey guys, I got this guest last minute. So if the vibe of the conversation's off, it's because I did
Mhm.
not have good time management skills.
Mm.
So
I like the honesty. I like the honesty. It does help, I think. It helps.
yeah, I definitely think it's a very crucial element to any work that you're doing. So, honesty is definitely another thing, the time management. But I also think as well, just the passion, the drive. If you're ever starting a platform that allows you to share stories or create an atmosphere for people to share their stories, it's
Mhm.
how long is that passion going to drive you for? And honestly, that's something I've never had to question since day one. It's something I still want to do. It's my entire vision for the Safe Room podcast. So I feel like there's always that push to make sure that people are going to hear these conversations, whether it's going to come out this week, the next week, or maybe 2 months from now. Who knows? It's
Mhm.
just within me. It's kind of just deep into my veins.
I love that. I love that. And you mentioned, that there were some episodes that things did not go as planned. And I definitely know that here. Especially this online game, like so many things can go wrong even when you plan out everything. Like even when your time management is on point, you've written it down, you had this guest booked, and then I don't know, the Wi-Fi fails. Actually, today we did, transparent moment, which I do agree. I like to be transparent too because I think it puts everyone at ease when they know what's going on or even have an inkling like, okay, it's not just me, that something is off today. And they know why. I do think it helps and I hope it helps. Let us know, listeners and viewers. Do you think it helps when the podcasters or your, radio personalities are honest and transparent if something is going wrong in the background? Or do you like that, they find a way to smooth it out and polish it up? But my question to you is, are there any like specific episodes that you can point to that you would say really helped you transform the way that you do things? Like you learned a big lesson because like, oh, the way that went, I don't want it to go that way again. And then you implemented some sort of tool or resource.
Yeah, definitely. So I can't name any specific off the top of my head, but I can definitely name some particular moments. So for the earlier parts of my podcast, I used to record on Zoom. Now, if anyone knows about that, I don't recommend it to anyone. Anyone starting, don't use Zoom. But I had to because I needed to start somewhere. And I remember it was about the I think the beginning of 2022, around in February, March, I wasn't dropping episodes, and I kind of wondered to myself, like, I wonder why, like, I'm such in a funk. I don't understand. But at the time being, I was always telling myself in terms of the audio quality, because I'm definitely someone when it comes to podcasting, I'm more of on the retro side of things. I care about the audio more than the video. I do use video. It's just more for social media clips and, just trying to repurpose long form content to more short form and interactive content.
Mhm.
So I was more focused on the audio side. I wanted to be that for the listener, they're able to get the best professional quality as possible. And I felt like Zoom wasn't doing it for me. So then I decided to do my research. And there's one platform I always kept seeing on my Instagram feed, and it was Riverside.
Mhm.
So I thought, okay, I keep seeing this. Maybe this is a sign from God telling me, like, check it out. So I started to go through all the different features, the pricing. I'm like, okay, it's actually not that bad. It says that, the audio quality is really great. They have a local audio backup. So there's a situation, and it's happened to me, where you have a guest and you're recording, but miraculously one of your audio tracks does not record for that entire conversation. They have a backup on that. So
Mm.
it's really useful. So from that time, I thought, okay, maybe this is the moment to make a switch. So I did make a switch, and then from about March to up to this moment, I've been using Riverside. It's been huge in terms of how my audio sounds. It has less time on me when it comes to editing. There's not that huge burden of I have to do all the bells and whistles or the processing within the
Mhm.
audio. It's so much better. Um, I think another moment is this one's actually I remember a very specific episode. It's the 75th episode of the podcast.
Oh, do you remember
And
the number?
yes, yes. So I actually had a interview with two other guys who also have a podcast, Alex and Owen. They're the hosts of the Hustle Over Everything podcast. And it was actually before and after the conversations where I really took everything in. So before I was telling them like, hey guys, like, okay, thanks for coming on. I was kind of explaining, doing the rundown. And I was telling them before, like, hey, listen, I don't have like proper headphones. So like if I hear static, I'm gonna try my best to fix that. They're like, no problem. So we got through the interview, and afterwards they pulled me to the side. They're like, listen, like we see you doing your thing. You should probably try to like add structure to your outlines. It's like it's nothing wrong with what you have. You have all your questions, which is cool, but try to add a segment. Try to add like, different things to give it more flavor or to have more of a, solidified outline. So it was from that moment I started to do more things. And for anyone who listens to the podcast as of now, you probably heard of the hot seat segment, which is a very like common thing. It's a staple now. And it kind of came from that conversation I had with Alex and Owen, them saying you should try out new things. So it
Mm,
actually helped me with the flow of my episodes. And even when it comes to recruiting guests and kind of breaking down the outline, I already know how I'm gonna go across with this. The hot seat segment is something that's again is a stable. I usually change like one out of the four questions that I ask. So like it's always copy and paste. I could always do it with multiple guests. So I'm able to probably bang out like 10 outlines in the span of like an hour because it's just so easy for me to do that. So I
mhm.
would probably say those are the more significant moments I was able to, learn from doing podcasting.
Yeah, and I really like the, that 75th episode insight that you received that story, because it really shows a lot about your character. A lot of people, when they receive constructive criticism or even just criticism, because sometimes the criticism is not constructive, the way that it is presented, it is, could be hurtful. But it's so great that you were able to take that advice and truly implement it and see that it wasn't a diss. Like, it was not, they were not coming for you. They were actually wanting to see you succeed. And this is why they dropped this gem on your head, and it hurts sometimes to, it hurts to break ground. When I think about like a seed breaking ground, when I think about a diamond, or how the process of, a diamond becomes, it takes a little bit of pain. And a mentor of mine told me that sometimes you really have to look at rock bottom as the greatest place to launch from. So this is where even, the inspiration for this podcast or this radio program comes from. And it's all about being able to shine a light on the breakdown so that maybe you can see that you're actually on the verge of a breakthrough. And so really glad, because that led to you being able to continue with this podcast. And I am wondering, when it comes to like your audience, and your listeners, building your fan base, was this something that was at the front of your mind? And has this ever discouraged you along the way, of doing this podcast? Like, does it matter to you about the viewers? Like, what is your why really for wanting to do the safe room?
Yeah. So for the longest time, I've told myself I don't really care that much about the views, but there was a period where that wasn't really the case. I was kind of very fixated on how everything would look in terms of just viewership, people tuning in. So I mentioned before when I first started the podcast, I was on YouTube
Mhm,
and I would post full video episodes. I was okay with that at the time being. Again, I was very like young into the podcasting game, so I just wanted to like, get into it. And I think the funniest thing that I look back at to that moment as well, I was not a social media guy. Like before really launching my podcast, I was not on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, because I felt like if I'm gonna be on social media for something, I want it to be, purposeful, have a meaning. I don't want it to be where I'm just going on and just say like, hey, I just got drunk with everyone at the club, or like, look at me at the gym. It's just like, no, that was just never my style.
mhm,
So when I started to post episodes there, I was like, I was one of those few YouTubers where like I would check my like views like every single day. Like, okay, did it go up here? Did it go up there?
mhm,
I want to make sure. So one thing I actually do want to share, and I hope anyone listening could probably resonate to what I'm about to say, that type of mentality of trying to get that instant gratification is like a drug. It's so addicting and
mhm,
you can't stop. It's at the point where it starts to consume you and it kind of shapes you what you're not supposed to be. So for that moment, I was always checking 0 views. I thought, okay, it's one day. It's one day. I would check the next week, 0 views. Check the
mhm,
next month, 0 views. That was a constant. So it was very discouraging because I thought, does no one care about what I have to say? Does
right.
does no one care what I want to, talk about? But it was a matter of two things. Number one, I was letting those numbers and metrics really cloud my judgment on what I really wanted to do and what I really wanted to accomplish. And number two, I didn't do enough research. I just kind of jumped into YouTube saying like I'm gonna get like 1 million views like off the rip, but that was not the case. So once I started to scale back and really evaluate what I wanted to do, and I really love how you asked this question, L, like what is the why? I
Mhm.
just want to support people. It sounds a little cliche, just like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's literally what God has kind of driven in me. Like, I just want to provide a stage where people can share their stories. They can feel a sense of accomplishment, but they also have a place to be vulnerable and share some of the setbacks that they went through. I want to be able to go out to events, connect with people, collaborate, work together, just give a stage for them to share. So for me, the audience that I've created, it's not at the scale of like a Joe Rogan or the Logan Pauls or even like the Breakfast Clubs and everything like that, where I have thousands or millions of listeners. It's actually pretty niche, which is something I think a lot of podcasters get into in terms of just their audience. It's very niche. They focus on a certain demographic. For me, I feel it's like the 24 to 39 entrepreneurs and business owners, around 50 to 100 listeners. But again, I feel like that's my whole point of the podcast. I'm not so fixated on the views. Obviously, I have goals of saying, hey, I want to hit 10,000K in terms of downloads every month. I want to be able to have over 1 million people, but it's not what's driving me at the end of the day. It's bringing this platform called the Safe Room all across Toronto, all across the GTA, and just being able to support people and provide a safe space for people to share stories.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, honestly. Like I I just yeah, very moved by that answer because I really resonate with what you're trying to say or what you have said actually that it isn't really about the views. And what it for me, I would say that it's about the people who are listening, the ones who will come across this podcast one day, or when they are, for instance, now you're doing this amazing course, which thank you so much for doing it, because it is so necessary to be able to put together the tools to be able to craft something like this so that you can have a little bit of something that is audible enough for people to enjoy. So I thank you for that. And I think it's so important that we all understand or start to gain this understanding that it's still important for you to say something if you feel like you have something to say, whether or not there's one person listening or no people listening. And I guess I don't know, I felt a little bit teary when you were speaking because it reminded me of a younger me that so many times put down this dream of doing what I'm doing right now. So many times put down this dream because of those things. Like I let the no views or the one or two people, or even the fact that there were people who did like it. And then I was like, I felt pressure to perform. And I was like, nah, not doing it. And then I put it all down for so many years and so many times and kept picking it back up when it was obviously a passion to do exactly that, just to have a platform where other people can also share these type of feelings, because I know that the world becomes a better place when each individual feels like they belong in this place. So, that's, and I think that what you're doing, even the name of your podcast, calling it the Safe Room, in the first place, which I think is genius. I'd love to know the reasoning behind that, for my next question. But I think that the fact that you even called it that, it just really rings true that creating this safe place on the internet where people can speak to somebody who's just giving them the time of day. Because, I think that a lot of people are busy. So I even when I hear you say the 0 views and you kept checking and checking and you're seeing 0 views, but then you kept going, like that is a testament because now you are teaching other people how to do this. You have also interviewed 115 people or more, because I'm sure you did groups, that also found a place where they could tell their story. And because it's the internet, it lives forever. So we can always go back to those episodes. And in fact, I'm gonna look for those episodes that have 0 views and I'm gonna give it a
I
view.
will give you a warning. They're taken down, unfortunately, because
Why?
I know this is not even me saying like I was ashamed. I've actually just kind of switched my whole marketing strategy.
Oh,
And
true.
again, plus it was on Zoom, and those were like 3 years ago. So even if I could get it back, it's just I legit can't because
Wait,
like
do you have my interview?
we might again we might have to do a part two. But I listen. There are the first 20 episodes. I did mention at the
Mhm.
beginning or at some portion of this conversation that not everyone gets past 20 episodes. I was one of the few people who has. But funny enough, once I hit 20, I did take a break for about 6 months. And it's because I was just so busy with school and work. And I
Mhm.
realized it was actually me stepping away from the podcast that kind of messed up my whole workflow. And I needed the podcast to just
Mm.
be in balance. So for me, I actually came back and funny enough, the first episode I came back was with you and
Oh,
Randall. So
really?
it's again, there's a lot of like connectivity points right there. But again, if you go back and listen to those 20 episodes, I cringe. Not to say that like, oh, I hate them, but it's just like, oh boy, if I had the chance to like delete those and then no one even knows about it, I
No, I
probably
wanna see a
would.
compilation, like, honestly, I live for the BTS of, like, how people put things together and how they break out of their shells, I guess, to, do this amazing work, especially in the community. I'd love to see a compilation, I'm just saying. I think your fans would love to see where you came from, and
Yeah,
you're students now, you're students.
I guess. But to answer your question about the name of the safe room,
Yes,
so
how'd you come up with that?
there's a funny story to that. So I probably think, and this is my personal opinion, I think coming up with a name for a podcast is probably one of the hardest parts
It
of
is
watching a podcast.
hard.
It's a struggle because I think the name of your podcast should represent you. I mean, sure, you can come up with something very catchy like the Breakfast Club. Obviously, you hear something like that, it's like, oh, I need to like tune into something like this. But
Mhm,
I wanted the title of the podcast to be something that kind of resonates with me, but also resonates with the listener. So when you hear the safe room, you think of your own personal safe room. That's one of the few questions I ask for my hot seat segment. I asked, "What is your personal safe room?" And a lot of people over the years have given some, like, simple answers like their room, their office. Some have been very creative answers. But the whole point of it is that we are acknowledging, our authentic self within this safe room or safe space we have.
mhm,
And for me, doing podcasts and being able to have conversations like these, it allows me to be my authentic self. Now, obviously, over time, I could be authentic, outside of my podcast, but this was really the breaking point for
mhm.
me to be goofy, have a very bubbly energy. Before I was very quiet. I wasn't really shy, but quiet. And anytime I tell all my guests there that I was really quiet, they thought, okay, you're capping. That's not true. Like you looks like you had energy once you came out the womb. Like that can't be real. But yeah, that was the case. I did not want to speak to much people during my school days. Outside my school days, I would do my classwork and go home. I would not go to the
Mhm,
mall or stay after school. So the podcast really helped me to just kind of be authentic and just kind of break out. So that's kind of where the thought of it. Now the name of it is gonna
mhm.
sound so stupid, but when I first came with the safe room, I was actually very afraid to go with that name because I thought the safe room, the first thing that people are gonna think about is the shade room. And they're probably gonna
I
say like,
did, I did, I
so I'm thinking
did.
like, what are you just bootlegging their name now because you
No, but
can't come up
good
with a
play on
podcast
words,
name?
though. Good play, like, because 'cause they're all about, like, shading people and actually it's not safe there.
It's
So
more
you
like, yeah, we
gotta be
just
on the
cover everything, like propaganda, not really
yes,
propaganda, but like we cover everything. Just
everything, like, and your mom when she, her wig fell off, like, they do it all, and yeah, it's not safe. So, actually, I like that you did that, but you didn't come up with it because of that. It wasn't 'cause of
I did not, but it was just one of those just miraculous moments where I thought, okay. And to also let people know, there have been moments where people have mistakenly said the shade room or stuff like that. I think one time I had a guest who kind of questioned what the safe room was. They actually thought it was a platform for just talking trash and just saying the most ridiculous things. And then
Oh.
I broke it down to them, and they were like, "Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. Just the name kind of threw me off." So it has its own different meanings, which I think is very fun because everyone has their own thoughts on everything. But the safe room again is just very simple. It is a safe space for everyone.
And I think that we need more safe places. And another safe place that you have created is now with Find Your Voice. And this is your program that you teach other people to do what you have successfully done. And so I'd love to know, where did the inspiration come from to, move from student to teacher?
Yeah, so this actually started back in 2022. I was taking a 8-week mentorship program. It was a very fun experience. So this organization is called Business in the Streets. They
Hmm.
have their YCEO program. This is usually for anyone who is coming in who has a business idea but just needs to flesh it out a little bit more to get validation on it. And then they have their boot camp program, who's more for people who know what their business vision is, and is looking to probably scale even more, whether it's getting through sales, marketing. So I decided to take the YCEO because I'm like, I don't know much about this. I really don't know much about the business realm of my podcast. So I thought, okay,
Hmm.
let me get into it. And one of the mentors asked me, like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm a podcaster. Like, what can you really do with podcasting? So they were thinking, hey, like, do you like to, have you ever done any like teaching before? I'm like, I used to facilitate like workshops during my days. And in high school, I was part of this very huge initiative that's still going on today called Black Brilliance for like 7 years now. I used to
Hmm.
be one of the facilitators. I'm one of the co founders of that. So I thought, okay, like workshops, maybe we could try that just to see. So those 8 weeks were really good because it helped me to kind of create an idea in my mind.
Hmm.
So from there, I thought, okay, maybe this could be, you know, something that could actually come into reality. So after finishing that program in 2022, that same year, I tried to make that jump and launch the workshop. And I was definitely thinking big, which is one of the few things that I have to always check myself when it comes to making a decision or pivoting on a moment, just how deep I go in terms of like my vision or my expectations. So for me, I was reaching out to like other podcasters and like I want you guys to be facilitators with me. And like I'm thinking about making this like a huge 1 day event and everything like that. I applied for a grant and I was so excited. But again, like I mentioned before, it's all about doing your research and just understanding that there's a time and place for everything. That's something I always say to myself and even to any of my guests. There's a time and place for everything. So, funny enough, I did not get the chance to do that for multiple reasons. I don't want to go too much into it
Yeah.
because then we'll probably be here for another 20 minutes.
Part two coming soon.
Probably. So, fast forward to 2023. I still had the idea in my mind, but it was a little bit more fleshed out. I knew exactly, okay, I'm gonna keep it simple, just kind of spread it out, not make myself like too heavy in terms of the expectations. So I applied for this one grant that was connected to York University and the TD Community Engagement Center. And I thought, okay, you know what? Let's just give it a try. I applied and it was all by myself. And for any entrepreneur or any artist out there, grant writing, it's not easy. It
I
is
was just
not
about to
easy.
ask you, I'm like, wait, how did you do that?
I
Okay.
I I
So,
I literally just like I applied a couple of times. I just took the feedback and like I thought to myself, like, keep it simple.
mm,
Like keep it simple. Don't make it this grandiose event. Just make it very simple. So fast forward, I was able to be one of the few recipients to receive that grant of $5,000. So it allowed me to construct everything in terms of reaching out to the studio, booking the times and the dates, figuring out, okay, I want to get a photographer to take some photos and videos. That's when I met Sunshine out to Sunshine because she's fantastic,
and did she
multimedia
shoot the
creative.
video for this, the
She
promo video?
the promo video that was Sunshine as well.
Amazing. That looked
Yeah.
so perfect. I was like, wait, we need to talk about that too. But one thing at a time, I learned the podcasting from you, and now I know it's Sunshine I need to talk to. But yeah, a
Y-
fantastic work. Like the promo for that, amazing. I saw it before I even knew that you were behind it. And I was like, exactly, this is exactly what I need. And then I was
Yeah.
like, wait, I know the person doing it. I'm like, okay, I hope he's good with me being in it.
No,
And
no, no. I'm glad that you're in it. So from that moment, I thought, okay, now we're in. This is what it's going to be about. So to break down a little bit more what the program kind of consists of,
yes, let them
it's
know.
yeah. So it's a 4 week program every Tuesday. So if it's going on right now, we just finished our second workshop last night actually. So it's
That's why
fresh
we're
in my memory.
tired.
Yeah, that's why we're tired. And it was supposed to be in person, but the weather in Toronto was just not having it, so we had to
We're
switch
in
on the
winter
floor.
right now, folks.
Yeah. So, anyways, we go over audio engineering, audio equipment. We go over recording and editing, particularly some of the different softwares that you should look for when starting your podcast, editing tips and techniques. And all the participants, including Elle here, get the chance to record a mini episode. So, this allows them to get that practical use when it comes to podcasting. And my
And
biggest
no guess. No guess.
no guess. And I've done solo episodes before in the past on my own platform, and I actually enjoy it. A lot of people don't. I'm okay with speaking for 50 minutes to an hour, but that's just me. And the whole impact or the whole vision for this program, it's not only to provide a guidebook in podcasting, but allowing the participants to find their voice. That's why I call it Find Your Voice. Being able to be comfortable in sharing through public speaking, through the art of podcasting, allowing yourself to be one with your voice. I want it to be where people are able to share and not have this hesitancy or feel like there's this burden waiting on their shoulders saying, I don't know if I could like really talk about this because like do people want to care
Yeah.
about what I want to say? But I had that same sentiment and I get it can consume you. But once you really open up to the fact that, yeah, there's someone out there, maybe if it's just one person that resonates with my conversation, that's I've done my job. So I want to bring that same type of motivation, inspiration to all my participants. I think the best moments in the last 3 to 4 years is when I can meet people and they say, "Oh yeah, you're Sean. I listened to the podcast. Like, all right, I've heard you from Instagram. Like, that puts a smile on my face because, it knows that someone is hearing me, someone's listening to me. Even Elle, you reaching out to me to be on this wonderful show. Like, that brought joy to my heart because I thought, wow, like, after all the setbacks, the ups and downs, like these are the moments that really count. So it's because I was able to find my voice, just be authentic and be me. So I'm trying to teach that with my students as well.
Yes, and you are doing it. You are more than trying. I can say, as a student of your class, that I feel that I'm even more so finding my voice because now I have done episodes, but not on purpose by myself. Like it's kind of like, well, the guest didn't come, or technical difficulties, or whatever would have happened. And then in my mind, I had a backup of like, I could tell a story. Like I feel comfortable to talk, but just like you, there's always a little voice in my head still that's like, does anybody care about this? Like, why are you talking about this? Stuff like that. But I've realized that it's you will find your footing, as you go, and you will find stories that are interesting. You'll also learn a lot of lessons from falling on your face that will, take you to places of doing more research, like you said, taking the feedback or watching yourself on those episodes and then being able to do something different or elevated next time. And so I'm up for the challenge. I'm very much looking forward to understanding how I can then take those conversations and really edit them down and make them look fancy. And fortunately, I've always so far had a collaborative effort, like right here on Love Babe Music Talk Afrobeat Radio. We have a team that helps to put this together, but I do think it's important for each individual to know as much as they can about how to put together a broadcast for themselves, because you just never know when you might want to say something. You might want to let people know what you're thinking or about something that you're doing. So I hope that if there's people listening out here, like Frequency Events, I want to shout you out because you've been dropping some beautiful comments all throughout our
You know what?
podcast.
if I could, Elle, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
let
do
them
I'm
know
gonna do
who that person
I'm gonna
is.
do a quick plug. So they are having their podcast relaunch on January 24th. So I'm gonna be there, and to anyone in Toronto who can make the ride, please do. Please do.
Mhm.
I've been wanting to go to one of Chris's events since last year, since I discovered his page. I've been telling him, like, look, I'm sorry. Like, I feel like I should have been at your event 10 times over. So I'm making the push this upcoming
January
January 24th.
24th, okay.
So shout out to them. They're doing their podcast relaunch. There's gonna be panelists there, food, drinks. You can't really complain. Like there's no reason why you guys should be saying
Come
no.
on. That sounds like all the good things for good vibes. So, shout out to Frequency Events, correct?
Yeah,
Frequency Events.
frequency events promotions.
Love it, love it. And come on, shout out. Maybe you want to come on to Love Bay Radio. We'll chat to you on Voices of the Millennials and have an elevated conversation. Just like we had with Sean Williams today. We are speaking to the founder of the Safe Room podcast. And before we get out of here, because this always happens, of course, time just runs away from us. And then I get, so sad because I'm just like, I had so many more things I wanted to know.
It's
But
okay.
we're gonna have to bring Sean back. That's what we say. That's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do like a whole season 2 of all the favorites, and I know that you're gonna be one of them.
Thank you.
And so I do want to end off with what is up next. We found out, how it started and how it's going, but what is for the future for you, Safe Room, everything?
Oh man. Oh man. There's a lot to unpack from there. I'll try to be brief. So for me, I'm just trying to get back to just work. I've been taking some time off from like working outside the podcast. So I'm just trying to get back into the swing of that.
Mm,
And I guess just for me also putting God first, you know. So every day I'll be like reading a devotional or just a different verse or a chapter, just reminding myself like what am I here, what's the purpose that God wants me to do. So
mhm,
I'm just continuing on that journey, just doing his work. In terms of the Safe Room podcast, there's so much I want to do for 2024. There's a lot. So one of them is I want to continue still doing episodes for the podcast, but I kind of want to start like a TV show or like a small series on YouTube that's going around to community organizations and doing interviews with some of the community residents in my area outside of Toronto and Scarborough, Brampton, wherever I can find, and just
mhm,
kind of making that as like a limited like series, whether it's like 20 episodes or like 15, 10, wherever it may be. So that's kind of my vision. It's gonna have to take a lot of planning. I already have an idea of like who I want to reach out to. I think it's just being able to receive funding and just being able to put the plan to work. So I'm definitely looking to just push that message out and push that vision out. Another thing that I want to do, I do want to like run a just like a fun event, a fun event full of like performances, you know, visual arts, anything, dancing, singing. That's something that I tried to do last year, but again, I think just everything was just not at the right moment, which was totally fine. So hopefully that's something I can try out for 2024 and just overall just making money for the podcast, you know, just
yes.
being able to get that financial growth. I'm working on an actual online course for people who want to start a podcast. So those are going to be more for my B2B, business to business clients. So those who actually have like a business or a brand that they're running that want to start a podcast, that's something I want to create
Mhm.
for them. Whereas the workshops I'm doing right now are more community centric, and I want to kind of keep that separate from my B2B model. So I'm looking to extend on that for
Mhm.
2024.
I love it. I love how I hear that business degree coming in. Like I'm just like, yo, come on. Because I didn't even tell y'all, but if it's okay, I just want to let y'all know, and I hope this inspires you. It is not to detract you from what you have going on, but Sean is only 23 years old, correct?
Yeah,
22?
23.
23 years old. And so then now you could put in your mind the big timeline that he told you, like, whoa, what he has really accomplished in this time. And To me, I think that what you are doing is a big inspiration and motivation to other young people, other young Black males, especially in the community, because your voice does matter. What you have to say does matter. And here is a young person who has shown us how you can transform, your feelings of inadequacy, or that maybe what you have to say is not that important, into being very important, because now you are delivering what I see as an essential service. You are going to now be able to help community members and then sustain your community initiative with your B2B model, like going to businesses, because I think podcasting, I saw it today, like it is part of business models now to
Yeah.
incorporate a podcast.
Hmm.
So just saying, you are on to something, Sean Williams.
Everyone's getting into it, so I mean, I'm just kind of
Really get into
stepping in front
it.
of the learning curves, getting ahead of it.
Like, come on. I'm so inspired, and I hope everyone out there is too. Tonight, you were listening to another Elevated Conversations on Voices of the Millennials on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We want to thank you so, so much for listening and tuning in, and we will be back for another one. You will have to make sure that you are tapped in and check out everything that's going on Love Bay Radio online, on Instagram, Facebook, all of it. All right. So thank you. Peace and blessings. Sean, we wishing you all the best. I'm going to see you next Tuesday at our class. I'm working on my episode. I'm working on it. I'm
All
working on
right,
it.
can't wait for it.
Blessings. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you next time, everybody.